Video games are now more popular than ever and have a much larger presence in the media. That has both its pros and cons. On one hand, the audience is larger and the games are more popular. On the other, there's a bigger chance to offend someone. In the current state, the developers don't want to alienate gamers or make anyone feel unwelcome. At the start of the recently released Mafia 3, you can even read that the vulgar and racial slurs in the game have nothing to do with the developers' beliefs. Well, duh. You can also take a look at Ubisoft, which puts a disclaimer before every Assassin's Creed that reads, "The game was made by a team of people of different nationalities and beliefs." Seeing how those games are a work of fiction, it seems absurd that such measures are taken. Today, let's look at the most controversial and offensive games and try to understand if there's any reason to be offended. In the 20th century, almost every country in Europe took part in a traumatic conflict. And when it comes to Britain, the most traumatic seems to be the First World War. The British have suffered losses of 900,000 in the Great War, nearly 3 times more than in World War II. A conflict that was supposed to end in a matter of months lasted 4 years and was something the Europeans have never seen before. To commemorate the fallen, the British used the symbol of the poppy, which is worn on the 11th day of November, which is known as Remembrance Day. In 1993, an action game, Fodder, used the exact same flower on the cover of the game, and that wouldn't be that offensive if it wasn't for the game's seemingly light-hearted approach to war. Such a use of the poppy symbol didn't go unnoticed by the British Royal Legion, whose spokesperson said that such an action desecrates the symbol and is offensive to those whose ancestors died in the war. Soon after, the Parliament and the media went after the developer, giving the game bad press. Too bad none of them played the title and understood the game's rather clear anti-war message that pointed out the absurdity of wars. Cannon Fodder became controversial after the release, but there are some games that can offend people even before they're out. Let's take a look at Kursk. The upcoming first-person perspective adventure game with horror elements is being made by a Polish studio Jujubee and focuses on a catastrophe of a Russian submarine in the year 2000. The reveal of the game angered some people in Russia, as it didn't feel right that a Polish studio was making a game about a quite recent tragedy. Still, the game might turn out good, as we've got a chance to play it for a bit, and it seems that the controversy is not about the subject matter, but rather about who is making the game, as Polish-Russian relations are far from perfect. That seems to be the case with another Polish game, Soviet City, that can be found on Steam's Early Access, which is more or less a simulation of a communistic regime, which brings to mind the Stalin era in Eastern Europe. In the game, we both try to meet the absurd standards of the so-called 5-year plans, and at the same time try to terrorize our people enough to stay in control. The game also features a not-so-subtle mechanic of turning people into resources, which isn't so far from the truth, as at some point a worker's life was worth less than a rifle he produced. According to Russian gamers, the game is Polish propaganda and puts the Soviet Union in a bad perspective, which is quite ironic seeing how much evil and suffering has the communistic regime brought to the world. This list wouldn't have been complete without the GTA game, because it seems that almost every hit from Rockstar offends some group or some party and even makes people want to sue them. Rockstar games are purely fictional and often satirize the modern world. However, for some, it's hard not to take them seriously, seeing how popular they are. GTA games depict the lives of gangsters and the criminal underworld full of violence, crime, and profanity, so it's obvious that at some point, certain sensitive viewers might be offended, like it was the case with the torture scene in GTA 5. However, the most offensive, it seems, was a certain part of Vice City that made Haitians look bad.
I'm gonna kill me a Haitian! And then I'm going to make love like a man.
The game set in a fictional city inspired greatly by the 1980s Miami featured not only Haitian gangsters, but also Cubans and Puerto Ricans as mobsters. Surprisingly, only the Haitian minority in America got the most offended and tried to influence Rockstar, led by a certain US journalist of Haitian descent who learned about the game from his underage son. Oh, how sweet is the irony of hypocritical social justice warriors. What interests me the most is what will become of Mafia 3, because this game also features Haitians. In this case, however, they are our protagonist's allies. So being a good person that breaks the law and does bad things is good and less offensive? Well, time will tell. Sometimes though, a game gets so offensive for some that with enough pressure it never gets released. That was the case with 6 Days in Fallujah, that was highly anticipated by realistic shooter fans. The game was supposed to take us to Fallujah and replay an actual battle fought there in 2004. Despite ending in a victory, the battle came at a price. 27 US servicemen lost their lives, while of the 800 Iraqis who died, around 600 of those were estimated to have been civilians, which, well, wasn't received all that good in the West. A game about the horrors of war, just like Spec Ops: The Line? That would have given you something to think about. However, for the Western media and some army officials, and even families of the fallen soldiers, the game was deemed too offensive and in poor taste. Good for us, we can be a glorified American soldier and kill everyone in Call of Duty, am I right? The most ironic thing about that is that many other shooters that make war seem like fun are okay for the media and army officials, but a game that shows the horrors of the war and puts the American soldiers in a bad perspective, well, that's a no-no. Games are becoming more and more popular, and it's getting harder for developers to make everyone happy. Sometimes it's not even the matter of what's shown in the game and who's saying it, but also what is not in the game. A while back, some ignorant people at Polygon, I believe, claimed that Witcher 3 was racist because it didn't feature any black people. The so-called journalists seem to have forgotten those games have entire subplots dedicated to show the horrors of racism. And in fact, the Witcher series is one of the games with the strongest critique of bigotry and racial discrimination. Here we face a paradox of free speech. Is it okay to censor games that make some group feel uncomfortable, or is it hypocritical to whitewash and make everything politically correct? I strongly believe that video game developers should be allowed to explore whatever topic they want to, just like artists, because, well, in the end, video games are art. If developers have creative freedom, they can make even better games, and games that challenge our way of thinking, and I think it's good. But as with art, it's all subjective, so let me know in the comment section below what you think, hit a like or subscribe, and I'll see you soon. I'm Jordan, and thanks for watching.